Hey, you geeks. Let's talk about fridging. That is killing off a male main character's female love interest for the purpose of making him likable to the audience.
Now, this is my friend,
Bob.
Bob. His wife is dead.
Hey, Robin! Come on.
Usually this is done before the story starts, or as the inciting incident for the man's character arc. This trope is not really new, but it's become more and more popular in fantasy media today, and since this is where I talk about fantasy media, I wanted to explain why I don't like this trope. Mostly because I don't think it works. It's supposed to make me like the character.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
And yet my favorite contemporary fantasy author is Brandon Sanderson, who is very well known for having characters with dead wives. So, is this fridging, or is Sanderson doing something different? Let's examine these cases one by one, with spoilers noted for each of their individual stories. But first, let's address what is fridging. Fridging to me seems like a cheap trick used to endear the audience to a main male character. It begins with giving him a love interest, which is a good start as it is a basic storytelling principle as Chesterton described. There is a great lesson of Beauty and the Beast that a thing must be loved before it is lovable.
But there's something in him that I simply didn't see.
However, fridging tries to double dip. They kill off the love interest before she can become her own character and try to use her death to bring up sympathy for the main male character. Though the most cited movie that embodies this archetype is John Wick, whose wife does die at the beginning of the movie, though unrelated to his job as a professional hitman. And then she gives him a dog, and the dog gets killed because he's a professional hitman. At this point in the beginning of the story, the only reason the audience is given to like Mr. Wick is that
His wife is dead.
Hey, Robin!
And then he goes off on a mad vengeance quest to kill the organized crime syndicate responsible for killing his dog given to him by his wife, who is dead. This thin veneer of sympathy for Mr. Wick is quite different from a story like Up, where Up gives us a 10-minute short film that introduces us to Ellie and gives us an opportunity to understand her as an individual character.
You and me, we're in a club now.
So when Carl sets out to achieve the goal that he thought his wife never achieved, we understand where it comes from, and we understand it as a love story between Carl and his dead wife. Fridging is like a romance plot in that the actions the man does for love are supposed to endear him to the audience.
He's been a fool about Jane, about so many other things, but then so have I.
But this connection is stilted when the audience doesn't have a clear idea for themselves who this beloved actually is, because she is dead. The worst case of fridging is when a man does something for his beloved, and yet it is something the audience doesn't think his beloved would actually want. We're on John Wick Chapter 4 right now. I don't think he's found the peace that his wife wished him to find yet.
This illness has loomed over us for a long time, and now that I have found my peace,
Find yours. Until that day, your best friend, Helen.
Thus, how is an audience supposed to be endeared toward a man who uses his love of a dead woman as an excuse to do anything he wants, including extreme acts of violence? For me, it makes the man's character himself stilted and frozen and oddly unlikable. Which brings us to see who in the Cosmere fits this description among the many men in Sanderson's Dead Wives Club. Dilaf. Spoilers through Elantris. Dilaf is the final antagonist in Sanderson's Elantris, the first of Sanderson's book, and he is literally a scenery-chewing villain who monologues.
He starts monologuing. He starts like this prepared speech about how feeble I am compared to him, how inevitable my defeat is, how the world will soon be his.
Of course, he has a dark and brooding backstory that explains his hatred of Elantris, arising from the time when he brought his young wife there for healing, and it didn't go so well. Dilaf's voice turned reverently mournful. I found her at the bottom, still alive, despite the fall, and I burned her. She never stopped screaming. She screams still. I can hear her. She will scream until Elantris is gone. A man killing his wife by fire seems to be a Sanderson special twist of the Phrygian trope. I would call it flaming, but that already has a meaning. I'm not sure where Sanderson got the idea for the twist. Elantris does carry a lot of Hunchback of Notre Dame vibes, raising the question,
Who is the monster and who is the man?
And I'm sure Sanderson loves the image of priests burning people for their sins, adding a grotesquely gothic flair on top of the Hollywood stereotypical Jesuits, which seem to inspire part of his Dakhor monks.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Regardless of origin, the question remains, does Dilaf having a dead wife endear him to me as the reader? Well, I don't like Dilaf. He's not a morally complex villain, and when we learn of this big reveal in the Sanderlanche, I was like...
Yes, very sad. Anyway.
It only adds to the cartoonishly evil caricature Dilaf cuts throughout this book. Like, at least Dilaf wasn't a main POV character, because if he was, I would not have finished Elantris. So, therefore, it is Phrygian. Kelsier. Spoilers through Mistborn, The Final Empire. Here's where I diverge with the majority of the fandom by not liking Kelsier, so you can tell where this is going. Let me know down in the comments if you like Kelsier and why. I will admit, Sanderson gives us many reasons to like Kelsier, but each one comes with a hook. When we first meet Kelsier, he saves a ska girl from being brutally raped and murdered by a nobleman. He does this by killing the nobleman and his entire family and then burning down the mansion. Without consulting with any of the plantation's ska, he leaves them all in considerably worse straits than they had been before. Why would that troublemaker do something like this? Doesn't he understand the damage he's done? He understands, Menace said. He warned us, Tepper. He came to stir up trouble.
Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
We later learned that this was just a part of his giant ploy to get revenge on the Lord Ruler because of, you guessed it, his dead wife.
His wife is dead.
Hey, Robin!
Closer to the archetypal Phrygian, Kelsier's wife, Mare, was actually killed by the antagonist, or on his orders. The Lord Ruler and I, Kelsier said, we have an unsettled debt. He took Mare from me, and he nearly took my own sanity as well. I'll admit to you all that part of my reason for this plan is to get revenge on him. We're going to take his government, his home, and his fortune from him. He may speak about liberation of the oppressed masses, but at his core, he is just another madman driven into rage and vengeance by the death of his wife. As if their love could balance out all of the bad he's done and all of the blood he has spilt. I'm not even talking on a moral level, just as a reader, I do not like him. I did think that Kelsier's best moment is when he died for his cause, thereby subverting the archetypal fridge, as Kelsier is not the one to take out the Lord Ruler.
Did you see them lying where they died?
That task is given to Vin, who does it for nobler reasons and actually has the best interests of the Ska at her heart. Kelsier's wife is a fridge, but because in the final Empire he died, it's a fridge subverted, and I was okay with that. Spoilers through the Lost Metal. Except, of course, we later learned that Kelsier didn't die at all.
No need to call a doctor, 'cause I'm not yet dead. He is not yet dead.
When given the opportunity between going beyond to be with his dead wife, probably, or power, Kelsier chose power, literally diving into a well of divine power. Now he is an undead cult leader.
I have been stabbed, shot, poisoned, frozen, hung, electrocuted, and burned.
Oh, really?
And every morning I wake up without a scratch on me, not a dent in the fender. I am an immortal.
Not that survivorism, or whatever it is Southern Scadrians believe is a cult per se, but that Kelsier is acting as one because he is using supernatural divine powers to manipulate people into doing what he wants in ways that might probably are definitely contrary to their own good. So no, the fact that his wife is dead does not endear me to him in the least. She is a total fridge, and I am so over him. Vasher. Spoilers for Warbreaker. Vasher is an odd one because we're not supposed to like him to begin with. When we meet him, he's a grumpy old dude who gets thrown in prison and then apparently murders a guy. So by the end of the book, there is an argument that killing was legal, if not moral. Let me know down in the comments if you want me to do a video on that. Morality aside, Sanderson does a very good job of making Vasher seem unlikable. We're supposed to believe the mercenaries when they tell Vivenna that he is the bad news bears.
Get back to the stands before I shave off half your mustache and shove it up your left nostril.
Sanderson doesn't even play up sympathy for Vasher when he reveals Vasher's dark, tragic backstory. Sure, there's subtext, but it's light. Is Shashara here? Nightblood asked, excitement in his nebulous voice. We need to go see her. She'll be worried about what happened to me. We killed Shashara long ago, Nightblood. It's not even until the Sanderlanche when the relationship between Vasher and Shashara is finally spelled out. Tenth raised an eyebrow. I get out of hand, Vasher? When's the last time I started a war? Slaughtered tens of thousands. You're the one who betrayed his closest friend and killed the woman who loved him. These accusations coming from Denth so late in the story almost sound like a backhanded compliment. By this point, Vasher has saved Vivenna from the streets of Tutelar. We know he is trying to stop a war, and he went to save Ciri for no other reason than it was the right thing to do.
I will see it done.
So there's many reasons to like Vasher, besides the fact his wife is dead, therefore it ain't frigid. Dalinar. Spoilers through Oathbringer in the Stormlight Archive. Oh, Dalinar, he walks a fine line. When we first meet him, there's not much to like about him because he's drunk at a feast. Then we find out he's a widower.
His wife is dead.
Hey, Robin!
He'd had everything of his wife taken from him. All that remained was the hole, and filling it to gain a scribe seemed callous. Yeah, in The Way of Kings, this is almost played as a rom-com.
If someone is a widower, why do they say that he was widowed? Why don't they say he was widowered?
For the reader, it evokes images of Dalinar's high fidelity to oaths, not breaking from his wife until death when she departed. And then he is even faithful to her memory. As always, when the name of his wife was spoken, it came to him as the sound of softly rushing air, then slipping from his mind immediately. He could not hear or remember the name. She changed everything, Navani said. You truly seem to love her. Or lack thereof.
It was like
Magic.
If Dalinar was a man of action in The Way of Kings, and this was the only insight we got into his character, then this would be frigid. But Dalinar spends most of the book contemplating on what is the right thing to do and his impending madness. Not to mention we see his adherence to the Alethi codes of war.
What if the worst should happen? Keep to the code. Aye, the code.
Not to mention him keeping his word to Kaladin and freeing the Bridgemen at the end of the book. So his loyalty to his lack thereof memory of his dead wife is just another log on the brilliant fire of Dalinar's steadfast nature, which we are supposed to find endearing. And then Oathbringer drops. In Oathbringer, we learn that Dalinar's reputation as a tough soldier has been understated. He's rather a Genghis Khan-style conqueror, but in his brother's name, the man who would be an honorable king. Yet, Genghis Khan managed to conquer most of Asia without killing a single woman in his extensive harem. This is not an endorsement of polygamy, but between that and wife killing, it does seem like the lesser evil. Young Dalinar, the Blackthorn, did not have any interest in discerning the lesser evil. Rather, he, like Fulk the Black, killed his first wife in rage by fire. Fulk the Black then went on to repent of his sin of wrath and went on several pilgrimages, that is, journeys, to heal his soul, much like what Dalinar seems to be doing right now. Yet Dalinar takes it another step further. He married his brother's widow, which got him excommunicated from the Vorin Church. This is hilarious because it's exactly what Henry VIII used to try to get an annulment from his first wife, Catherine of Aragon.
For as it says in Leviticus, if a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an impurity.
Point is, the circumstances surrounding Evie's death narratively are so much more nuanced than a simple fridge. So no, this, on the whole, is not fridging. Wax. Spoilers through Shadows of Self in Mistborn Era 2. We saved the best for last. Waxillium Ladrian's wife is so nice, he shot her twice. Alloy of Law has no pretenses at having narrative depth. It takes the common spin on Phrygian, where a wife gets caught in the crossfire between the man and his fight against evil. We see this attempted in shows like The Wheel of Time with Perrin. But in that show, it gets fumbled as it undercuts Perrin's fidelity to his wife, which was the only feature he had going for him in that show.
You wanted Layla dead, out of the world. That's why you killed her, because you loved another woman more than your wife.
Worst, we never see Perrin decide to fight evil. This is to contrast with Wax's arc, where his fidelity is never questioned, and in the end he does make the decision to fight evil again. So, is this Phrygian? Yes. But
I've seen worse.
And then Shadows of Self comes out right on the heels of Alloy of Law, and it takes that silly little prequel and gives it depth. Mostly by taking the very frigid, very dead wife and turning her into a very undead supervillain. It's the old Milady de Winter trick.
You're dead. I watched you hang.
Milady de Winter is the wife of Athos in The Three Musketeers, though she is thought dead before the story begins because Athos had to kill her in the name of the law. Or so he thought. She then comes back as a villain and he has to face the question of, can he kill her again? Athos is of course just a primary side character, and Milady de Winter is an interesting villainess. Sanderson seems to have learned from the French master Dumas by making Lessie a very compelling villainess and giving Wax an interesting ensemble, though he is still the lead. We also see more amiable characteristics of Wax, such as his devotion to his friends and his honesty in his pursuit of Steris, if not for love, then at least for honor. All in all, this isn't Phrygian by the skin of its teeth. Had Alloy of Law been a standalone novel for much longer, I think that the fandom would view it quite differently. But taken together with Shadows of Self, it ain't Phrygian. So, those are my rankings. Do you agree? Let me know down in the comments. And of course, like, share, and subscribe if you would like to see more. Thanks for watching. Bye!